Good evening. I will call this meeting to order. First, the mayor would like to apologize for not being here tonight. He had a prior obligation he was unable to change, but he does send his apologies for that. Councilman Stevens will not be here tonight due to a prior obligation. I have not heard from Councilman Lee. Has anybody heard from him yet? Okay. At this time, I'd ask for you all to rise as I ask Councilman Scott to perform the invocation, and please remain standing as we pledge allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come tonight, Lord, to do business in this wonderful town that we live in, we're very proud of. We pray for all the citizens here, Lord, all those that work here and make this home for us. We pray that we make the best decisions, Lord, to benefit all those in party. Father, I pray a special prayer over the grief that's lost in the community over the recent couple of days. Be with the family during this time. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, we have the agenda in front of us. I am aware of two known changes. We have one item being added to the consent agenda, special event amendment consideration request for approval to amend the DSDC Oktoberfest event to include closing a portion of the 200 block of Johnson Street to add additional children's events. And we have a removal of public hearing number 3. The applicant has requested to remove that this evening. Any other known changes at this time?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd ask we add a brief council comment.
That's fine. All right.
If there's no other changes, I'll make a motion. We approve the agenda.
Did you get
as
that,
amended.
Shannon? Councilman Scott would like to add a brief council comments to our agenda.
I second the motion to accept the agenda with modifications.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Our first item tonight is public hearing. This is not a quasi-judicial hearing, therefore no one needs to be sworn in. It's a conditional zoning request from Massey Street Subdivision CZ-24-04. Adams and Hodge Engineering PC is requesting the rezoning of approximately 0.38 acres of land located on Massey Street on the block between South 6th Street and South 7th. Also identified by Johnston County Tax ID 150-26054 and 150-26055 from R8 to R8 conditional with a plan for 3 detached single-family residential homes. I would ask now if Stephen Winsman can come up. Thank you.
I'm just trying to get this open.
First, can I entertain a motion to
I make a
the
motion we
public
open public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
All right. Take it
There
there,
it
Steve.
is. My God. Yeah. All right. This is a conditional zoning request. Adams and Hodge is requesting the rezoning of approximately 0.38 acres of land on Massey Street on the block between South 6th and South 7th, also identified by Johnson County IDs 150-6054 and 150-6055. They're requesting the rezoning from R8 to R8 conditional with a plan for 3 detached single-family residential homes. So the properties are here in yellow. The R8CZ next door was the Spring Branch Commons Phase 2 we approved several years ago. And I'll show you the plans for that. This is all within the town utilities. So this is what is being proposed. It's a 3-lot, single-family residential subdivision proposed as an extension of the Spring Branch Phase 2 with matching lot sizes, setbacks, similar but a two-story architecture, and utilizing the Spring Branch Phase 2 alley for access. You can see the alley stretches over to 6th Avenue, or 6th Street, I'm sorry, so it's all private alley, providing rear access lots. And the Spring Branch Phase 2 is still owned by Twin States Farming, even though it was, a developer has a plan approved, but it still hasn't changed ownership as of today. So this was a Spring Branch Phase 2. So that alley, as shown, would be extended. The leftmost alley would be extended beyond up into this new property. These were the houses proposed in Spring Branch Phase 2 and are currently in construction in Phase 1 across the street. The Massey Street subdivision will be about the same size homes, but they will be two-story. You can see they have board and batten, lap siding, and shakes. A little more elaborate than Spring Branch Phase 2. The plans are consistent with the comprehensive plan guidance. The comprehensive plan guides this area for medium-density residential with a density of 9.68 units per acre. This development will have a density of 8 units per acre. The 3 lots will have street frontage on Massey, but vehicular access in the rear, 16-foot wide private alley, again, same as Spring Branch Phase 2. Because Spring Branch Phase 2 has not been constructed, a condition of approval would be that an access easement be secured for alley access to South 6th Street if this project were to precede the other. It needs the other project to move forward, or they would have to build an alley and an easement on that property. So that is a condition of approval because it's essential for that to be built. The proposed development will provide 5-foot sidewalks in the Massey public right-of-way and a sidewalk behind the homes to provide access to the mail kiosk in Spring Branch Phase 2. I think they actually modified that recently with their own mail kiosk to not confuse the two different projects, so they could move forward earlier. So the dimensional setbacks are really the same as in Spring Branch Phase 2. There will be some common open space as shown on the plans. They will be triggering stormwater. More than likely, that open space will be used for stormwater. Once they get to the construction phase, we'll know for sure. Open space amenities will be maintained by the HOA. The master plan shows 2 parking spaces per dwelling located behind the homes on each lot. Again, this is in walking distance to downtown. This is a development that could survive with fewer vehicles than elsewhere in town. This development, as I said, will have 49% impervious, and that stormwater pond will likely appear on the construction drawings. They have no architectural design standards drafted. However, the footprints, again, match Spring Branch Phase 2, and the elevations they provided are fairly elaborate. Required buffers are shown. Required trees and foundation plantings are shown. Trash will be from rollouts, and there'll be a space behind the homes for those. And another condition of approval would be to provide the matching fencing that was approved with Spring Branch Phase 2 so that it's continuous for the block. These are the requested changes from the underlying ordinance. Staff finds it consistent with adopted plans. Will be consistent with the Unified Development Code through the conditional zoning process and is compatible with the surrounding land uses, and in fact is designed to match what's going on next door. So the first condition of approval is really just codifying those changes to the ordinance. Number 2 is having an access easement in the back. That, well, this probably should be amended, that the construction of the Phase 2 development, they should work out in their HOA agreement, any shared maintenance of shared amenities. That's what it really should say. HOA standards be provided and incorporated into HOA agreement, stormwater management be addressed, the fencing be installed to match Spring Branch Phase 2, and then the storage pads for trash and rollouts be provided and screened from the public right-of-way in the rear of the homes. With that, staff is recommending approval with 8 conditions. Any questions?
Any questions for Stephen this time?
I do have a question. Mr. Winslow, I'm a bit, don't understand the driveway. Can you help me understand
Sure.
that? You said it had to be done. Is this developer having to do that, or?
It really depends on whether they wait for the other development to happen first, but they can't move forward without a driveway on the adjacent property. So they will either have to negotiate, well, either way, they're going to have an easement from that property owner to access their 3 lots. And whether or not they end up going before this development, they would have to build that driveway as well
Okay.
in an easement.
So there's a,
But they're trespassing on the adjacent property to get access to their parking.
okay. And that's why you put that in the conditions like you did.
Yeah, either way, they need an easement because it's a private alley.
Stephen, can you repeat what you said in the recommendations on, you said number 3 should read what? I think that's what you're saying? I didn't catch that entire. I think you said, it should read,
It should be contingent on the construction of Spring Branch Commons Phase 2, or they'd have to construct construct the driveway in an easement
okay,
and negotiate any shared maintenance of amenities, is really what it should say.
okay.
Because they had the mail kiosk on the Spring Branch Phase 2. They were going to share that kiosk. That assumes a shared maintenance. They've since shown a 3-lot shared mailbox on their property, but there's still the shared driveway.
Okay, Madam Clerk, did you get that? And you're, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So I had a question related to open space parks and recreation. It says 0.09 acres of passive open space, but then it looks like to me that they're planning on using that for storm water management. So there is no open space. You know, you can't plan for stormwater in that space and plan for open space.
Yeah,
Because it's not open space unless you plan on having boats.
It-
I'm just,
It's hard to know how big that storm pond, it may be a very small storm pond.
Uh-huh.
I can't say at this point. There's
what
still
is the
maybe,
requirement is what I want to know. What's the requirement?
when they exceed 24% impervious, they're required to provide stormwater.
Okay, I'm talking about Parks and Recreation.
Oh, there's no requirement?
Fee.
Oh, the fee.
Is there a fee?
Yes, there is a fee at
Where's
final
that at?
plat. It's at final plat. It'll be in the
Okay,
plat.
but they're in lieu of having opened the space, are they going to pay the fee? Isn't that what it was? I mean, correct me.
Yeah, I mean, there's no public
So, I
park.
mean, but that's what I'm saying, so that's what, normally, we include a statement in here, though, that says they're gonna pay this in the fee in lieu of.
But that's a different process. I'm just saying, they have identified that area as passive open space as part of their master plan.
Uh-huh.
And I'm saying it'll likely be all used up for storm pond, but we don't have enough detail at this point to know that. But you're right, when they go through the plat process, they'll be going fee in lieu because they're not providing any public parks.
Okay, that's what I wanna know, because okay. 0.09 acres is not a lot of land.
No. But if you have a dog and you want to,
Yeah, but if you got a pond, I'm saying if you got stormwater, I mean, 0.09 acres is not a lot for a
Right.
pond, that's
Right.
what I'm saying, so,
right.
that's what I'm guessing is gonna be taken up for the pond, for the stormwater situation, I
That's
would
right.
guess.
That's right.
Especially as wet as our town we live in, right? So, okay. I just wanted to know, that answered my question.
Yep. Any other questions?
Councilman Wood, one other question
Yes.
from me.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winsman, the map here on this block of Massey, considering this as a rezoning, was there any objections to the other property owners?
Paul Embler is actually here, who has represented that owner. They were made aware of this project, and there weren't necessarily any objections, but they haven't had a lot of face-to-face discussing it. And I don't know if that's changed since when I had that conversation with Paul and his client, but at that time, there really hadn't been any promises or any ask.
Well, it seems like it'd be most beneficial for them to work with them. I mean, they're
They'll ultimately have to,
leading
yes.
that project, so I was just curious about it. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, yes.
And I would say too, it looks to me like that based on the design, that we're seeing the design that's there, it looks like it very much complements that whole block area. So I think it actually adds value to them. So I don't see that they would have a big problem with that. Because again, like I said, it looks like it's very compatible, to your point.
Yeah, as long as they work out the details like shared maintenance and
Yeah.
those things, which, we got covered with the easement, and they'll have to work it out.
But it doesn't, that easement is not taken away from their existing plans of houses, so they don't lose anything in that deal. That's what I'm saying. So
Nope.
it looks like that, I think that would probably work okay.
Stephen, the proposed houses on,
No page number.
there's not a page number on it. It's about the 6th slide, 6 or 8 slide that you've got there.
Yep.
Go back one more, if you don't mind.
There you go.
That one. Is that an existing house that's there?
That's an existing house that was built in Phase 1.
Okay,
And Phase 2 is going to look the same.
okay, and then you go back to the fencing
And the house,
slide. And when Phase 1 was put in, that is a picture of what we were shown
Yes,
right there.
that's the
So-
type of fence they're going to put in.
So when somebody shows us a picture and it's going to be similar to this, and you look at those houses versus
this house,
the house that's actually there, not in this part of it, but in the prior part, which,
I don't know if this was representative of the house, or this was more representative of the fencing they promised.
when it was discussed, I think we were kind of led to believe they would be similar
Yeah.
in nature to that
we were.
appearance.
Okay, I'll go back and
So-
check.
I mean, this has got no shutters, nothing over the windows.
Councilman Stevens isn't here tonight, and he normally heads up this charge about the architectural design of them.
I don't think we're getting what we asked.
But I think now's the time we need to
I will,
put that in about. the
I will double check
architectural
that.
design. Okay, so, I mean, clearly, I think we need to, what we've tried to do in the past is step up the architectural design.
Absolutely.
To make the town look a little nicer,
And this is not getting it.
so
It's no
That's-
shutters,
just- I
no
was-
nothing.
on the project that's there, it was a little, I'm not gonna say misled, but maybe I misunderstood what the plan was. So I'd like to see some design requirements in there similar to what we've had in the past about contrasting, which technically that has contrasting, it's the vinyl on the front and the board and batten on
That's
top.
what they're building now, though. These are the houses they're building, that's great.
Okay, right, but does that mean that's a elevation sketch? That is not
A
a
picture of the house.
plan?
That is, that's what we have to hold them to, because that's what
Okay,
they
so in this-
presented.
In this design here, they've got
Two-story
board
house.
batten and shaker siding on it. That
There's
will-
no text, but they have provided an example home, so that is what we have to go by.
So this picture is only representation.
If you want to add a condition to approval, something like the homes to be built need to reflect the architecture and the image and the presentation, that would be fine.
Okay, I think we need to add that in then. That
Is this
needs to be reflective of what was portrayed to us.
Can you add that, Shannon? So I can bug you tomorrow?
So this picture here is just for fencing only, not the house.
I'm sorry?
The first development was that's just for the fencing only, what the.
Yes, that's my
That's
recollection.
not the house.
Right.
Because these are two-story anyway.
No, but
Yes.
but I am confident that when they presented it before, they
It had-
presented the design like that other
It
one.
had shutters and it had.
No, they presented a design where it looked pretty much like what they have here. It was, because it was it was a flat, but they had fences in front of it. They showed a picture with a fence in front of it, but they didn't have a walkway in. You stepped up into it. It wasn't just like they show here, it's like the ones they're building. To my interpretation is what they're building is what they said they were gonna build. That's my recollection of it. The picture or whatever, the picture this right here. This is the house. Now, I think they had shutters on it though.
Shutters, that's
I
what
think it
I'm
looked
saying.
better than this now, mind you. I mean, the design looked better than this, but I'm saying this is basically the house that they showed. I'm pretty comfortable that that's what they showed that. But again, they had a fence in front of it with a walkway coming straight out, not like this.
Yeah, well.
The walkway came to the street, didn't it?
Exactly.
And then they had a fence in front of it. That's what I understood, that's what I
I
remember.
believe it's the same.
But you can bring that stuff back up. Can you not bring us copies of
Yeah,
what we approved?
I will forward that to.
Because we have you have the things from that.
Yeah, I will forward that to the manager, just so you all
Yeah,
have
that'd
it.
be great.
Yep.
That way you'll see exactly what we agreed.
So this is finished except for the fencing, is that correct?
This is reflective of the fence that was approved in Spring Branch. And so I'm saying they should continue the same fencing in their development, so we have a consistent look across the block.
Yeah, you probably did.
Mr. Winsman, are these setbacks consistent with what the other part of the project was?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
so it is consistent.
Yep.
That one sideline, it's the one that's got some architectural render ideas. There is a larger setback on that number 3. I was just curious, is that because of the existing structure that's in the picture?
You talking about this
no,
one?
No, sir. Go back, I think, to the new proposal has the architectural idea. No, I'm sorry, landscaping, wrong word, I'm
All
sorry.
right, sorry about that.
I believe it's that one there. First plat you had.
Here you go, thank you.
The space in between the houses is 5.5 from each one, is that correct? So it's going to be 10 in between the houses?
Yes.
11. But on that far right side, is that because that's not part of the project?
The house, it's the property, yeah, it's
Basic
off the project.
Okay,
So they left all the extra space over there for a buffer.
okay. Thank you.
How far along is this phase 1 is being completed? Have they
Well, phase
moved
1's
in?
under construction. They got maybe 2-3 houses up. Phase
already in
2,
them?
sorry?
Are people already in them? They got,
I
Virtual.
don't believe anybody's living there yet.
Because that's not part of it.
In phase 2, I would guess they're going to be doing phase 2 next year,
Looks like it's the,
if the project keeps going.
okay, when will we get the landscaping and the fencing done in phase 1?
Before occupancy,
it looks like it's this whole thing.
Okay, there's no occupancy, and they got a table on the front porch and a flag hanging? There's no occupancy in the house?
you saw a flag and all that.
There's a flag on the front porch and there's a table on the front porch. Is there no occupancy in that house?
It could be. Sorry, I didn't notice.
So we don't have a fence, so we don't have anything, but we got people in the house.
They'll have to build it. They will have to build it before the project's done.
They don't have to build it before you have occupancy?
I'm surprised there aren't the shrubs. I'll go back and follow that. I don't remember if this was an example or if this is actually the house that's out there. That might have been oh, I know what this is. This is a house on Wilson's Mills Road up that way that he built in the same style.
Okay, okay,
That's why it looks
okay.
the same. But
Okay.
there are about 3 of these homes built already out there,
okay,
not
I know
occupied,
it's not.
not occupied, but the same plan.
okay. Thank you.
That actually does come from the presentation that I presented at the meeting.
Okay,
And this other slide was a picture of the fence, because he was asked to give an example of what the fence would look like. That was the picture he presented. It all came back to me.
okay, thank you.
But you're gonna present to us what they're supposed to look like.
I'll verify it, but now I recall that this slide came from Spring Branch Phase 2.
Any more questions from the council for Stephen? Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this hearing right now? All right. Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? What's the recommendation? Sorry.
I would like to, I don't know if this needs to be a condition or just a matter of the record, but it's extremely important that, as tight as this project is they work with the leader on that phase one, and this phase two. So I don't know if that should be a condition, but they certainly should. And if they haven't communicated with them well, hopefully that would, because there could be some differences. I don't know what their best record, yes, go ahead.
Well, they're going to have to engage with that landowner because they need access. And if they don't engage and come to an agreement, the project's dead.
Okay.
Because
So-
they have to build it this way. So I think we're covered.
But we could put in one of the conditions that have a signed agreement to work.
They will have to.
But, yeah, but we put in the thing, they have to do it for us too.
Okay.
So whether they do it for themselves or not, they have to do it for us.
Yeah.
You know, because they may be agreeing with a handshake and we ain't gonna agree with
No,
a
we
handshake.
need a recorded easement.
That's, okay, okay.
That condition's in there.
So can you go through the conditions that we have here? So we make sure we get all the ones that were listed.
Yeah, so one is just a codifying the changes. Access easement is number 2. So that'd be a recorded easement, obviously. So number 3 is the one that I modified because the mail kiosk actually came out. The HOA be established to maintain common areas and amenities. Architectural standards be provided and incorporated in the HOA agreement. That stormwater management be addressed, that the fencing be installed to match Spring Branch Phase 2, and that the storage of trash and recycling bins be provided along the rear facades of each home. And then we added a 9th one. Can you read that one off, Shannon?
That the design shown in the PowerPoint matches what?
Oh, yeah.
Which PowerPoint slide would that be exactly?
This presentation.
Show me. Show me which slide.
That,
Yeah.
Proposed houses.
yep. The proposed housing diagram.
Should that just be rolled into item number 5, since item 5 already talks about architectural standards?
That could be, yeah, that'd be
Yep.
appropriate.
One last question, Mr. Winsman.
Yes,
You
sir.
speak of the HOA. Is this going to be an HOA for the 3 houses or the total subdivision?
Three houses, unless legally they combine all of them, which that'd be up to them to do, but they need an HOA to maintain any common amenities, and they're going to have the shared driveway, they're going to have the mail kiosk, they're going to have a stormwater pond, and that's probably it, but maybe a sign. So,
It is.
How many, okay. I don't know how you could enforce them because, again, this is separate from the other project, but it's together, so that could be a problem later.
I mean, they could legally do it, but it would take agreements. Wouldn't you agree, Bob?
Take restrictive covenants usually.
What?
They take restrictive covenants. Sometimes they're homeowners associations, and sometimes they're not. It's such a small number of lots, you know. But they'd have to have a mutual commitment as to what the standard is for repaving the road.
Well, if we're, should that condition then be amended to say restrictive covenants instead of an HOA agreement, or is that the,
Say restrictive covenants or.
okay. Thanks for that clarification.
Right.
Yeah, HOA agreement or, restrictive covenants.
So what do we do now?
Bob says it should say HOA documents or restrictive covenants
Okay.
because of the small number of lots.
Can we, I would love to see some type of a discussion with them about, between the two projects, to see if they're willing to having a discussion about combining. We're looking at, because they're eventually gonna be gone. That's why it's an HOA. Builders build it, sell the houses, they're gone. Now the HOA, the people who live in that, on that block, have got to deal with everything. And if you have two different groups together, that's gonna have a, to me, you're asking for trouble, right? So it would definitely behoove the people that move into there if they had one common community for that block. So that, I'm saying, there's a way you can have a recommendation. We can't, I don't know if we can't require it, I'm assuming. But certainly would behoove everybody benefits from that. Not just the three houses, but everybody. So,
That is something I could suggest, and this is going to come back as a plat. So at that point, well, is it going to come back as a plat? It could come back as a minor. How do you make that a condition if it's not enforceable? I'll definitely have that conversation with them.
I mean, if you got three houses, I mean, how do you have an HOA committee of three houses?
Actually, they probably,
that's what you said.
storm,
That's why they might not have, they might just do as restrictive covenants so they can sue each other over it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And have a standard. And it's just like having a common driveway. You know, if you have a common driveway and one guy wants to pave it and one guy doesn't, you know, there can be some standard in there that's legally enforceable. And they can set that up. And it'd be about as effective as a homeowners association and a lot less mess.
And don't you have, but now, the question, so you have HOA though, there's HOA fees that people pay into, so when something happens.
That's true.
So that means these people have, these big houses are really paying into an HOA to a fund somewhere that somebody that lives in those three houses are gonna have to manage, right? Because,
You could have a sinking fund either way, but
I guess the question
an
is,
HOA don't. I mean, it's just HOA is another nonprofit corporation and, you know, something else to do.
I guess I have this question for you, Bob. Is a required stormwater pond a public improvement requiring major subdivision?
I don't think so.
Okay.
who's gonna maintain the stormwater pond? The HOA has
The
to.
three owners have to do it.
Yep. People that live the furthest away from it, they ain't gonna worry about it. I'm being honest. I mean, you know, that's your pond, man. You live next door to it. I'm just saying that's a possibility. So I don't, you know, I would be concerned, but this is not just this is not just one particular thing. I know we're sitting there parking on this one, but we had this situation come up.
Yeah.
And that's why we really need to think about how we're going to deal with it. I know we're dealing with it right now in this particular situation, but it's a more systemic problem that we're having to, that we need to resolve. Because we see this happen before, not this one case, but with these small 3 and 4 houses.
Yeah, well, these three owners are going to have to submit a yearly stormwater report to the planning department. If they fail to do so, we do have code enforcement. So it'd be, you know, fees, and then we take them to court if their pond's failing. I mean, it's a messy process, but we do have some provisions in place.
You know, we've had trouble with a homeowners association before.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not something we haven't heard in the last year.
That's why we, on one particular development, made them put money aside in the building to ensure that there was money to fix a particular pond or something that was there, because we don't feel good about that, so.
And that's frequently a problem.
And that's in the stormwater ordinance now, so that is something we can require. But in terms of, you know, even if they don't maintain it, we are doing yearly reports. We're not negligent on that at all. And so if they don't submit their annual report, you know, we'll get them that first year. We'll know whether or not their pond's having an issue and get on it, where we've had other ones that were sitting there for 10 years without any maintenance and no correspondence at all from them. So we've got a program that's active now, and we're better at catching these things. And it's still messy sometimes, but it's better than what it used to be.
And I'm not really trying to resolve this problem with these three houses, as I am so much to resolve the issue that we have of the two different segmented HOAs in the same block. That really, to me, is the biggest issue, because I think with the more people, you got more likely that it's all going to take place.
And that's a
You only have three
conversation.
homeowners versus, a lot more homeowners.
Right.
Then you have an organization that can find somebody. Can you imagine three people that have these three houses, and they're not financial people at all. They have no idea how to run an HOA or whatever. I mean, they don't know anything about that. I mean, so, because it takes, like you said, some complications and maintenance and stormwater, and they just want to buy a house, man.
Well, could it be made a condition of approval that the HOAs be incorporated? Or is that,
I think we're asking for trouble. I've never seen that done legally.
okay?
And you're getting closer and closer to really restraining the sellability of the house.
So we can suggest.
If it's a 3-unit HOA, they're going to have a set of long restrictive covenants which entitle the homeowners association to enforce certain architectural standards, stormwater ponds or whatever, that the homeowner association then can do it, which require 2 owners. And frankly, could do it with restrictive covenants, and then any one owner could go in and sue for enforcement of restrictive covenants. There are restrictive covenants either way, okay? Obviously, it's easier and better maintained if you have a homeowners association if you've got 50 lots. Now, until about 1997, we didn't have a statutory procedure for homeowners associations in North Carolina. I think it was January of 97, but it's in the late 90s. So, I mean, this is, it doesn't have to be done everywhere on every situation. So, I mean, I think we would be fine with putting that alternative in there and letting these landowners work it out,
I'll definitely have that conversation with the developers.
So one question related to our response. So if we had this HOA have a problem with the stormwater and they don't do it, and none of them want to do it, so they're not going to sue each other because they don't want to do it, we start giving fines, I guess, right?
Yes, and we can sue them to make them meet ordinance standards, and we have had those kind of enforcements within the last year for bigger subdivisions than this.
It's not one of the things where we have to fix it and just send them the bill.
No, you can ask the court to order us to fix it and assess it as a lien on their property.
Okay. All right, so point is, there is an avenue, there's an avenue for us to make it done right if it don't. Okay. All right. We have an avenue.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
So then, I move to recommend approval of the conditional zoning map, CZ 24-4 with the 9 conditions, or do we make it 8? We made it 8 because we combined one, right?
Yep.
The 8 conditions finding with the Town of Smithfield Comprehensive Growth Management Plan to be, as to be in other adopted plans, and that the amendment is reasonable and in the public interest.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next item on our agenda is a quasi-judicial hearing. It's a special permit request, special use permit request for Hartley Drive Townhomes, special use permit -24-01. Terra Eden Landscape and Design LLC is requesting a special use permit for Hartley Drive Townhomes, a 94-unit townhouse development on 9.611 acres of land in the R8 zoning district. The property is located northwest of the Hartley Drive and Coates Drive intersection, also identified by Johnston County Tax ID number 15K090110A, 15K090110P, and 150890119A. And this is a quasi-judicial hearing. If anyone in the audience would like to speak on this matter, I would ask you please stand and face the clerk to be if you wish to offer your testimony in the public hearing, so you may be duly sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
I will make a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
I did too. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Everybody's good.
I can make a motion. to get two of those. I can? You can. All right, Stephen, take it over.
Thank
sir.
you. So, as stated, this is a special use permit for townhouses. The developer is proposing 94 units on 9.611 acres of land in the R8 zoning district. Multifamily is a special use in the R8 district. Developer has a choice to do a special use or a conditional zoning to make this type of project happen. This developer has chosen the special use permit process. And by using a special use permit, they need to comply with all codes. In the UDO, it's not like conditional zoning where they can deviate, so this is based on code. So this is the properties, and you can see it fronts on the Hartley right-of-way, but the Hartley street is not built. It stops right at the intersection there, so they would be extending Hartley to provide access to this property. There is a Coates right-of-way you can see that heads north that seemingly would provide access to this property, but that is unbuilt and is currently used for a residential driveway.
Where's that at, Mr. Winsman?
Coates, you see how Coates, as you follow Coates north? There's a house at the end of Coates, right at the very end of it, and they have a driveway that runs through that platted right-of-way. So in either case, neither that piece of Coates or Hartley Drive are constructed. The developer has chosen to build out the Hartley Drive to provide access. And you can see to the west is some light industrial. You got R20A land kind of in the northwest and east, and then R8 and R10 zoning in the neighborhood. So the applicant is Tara Eden Landscape and Design. Paul Embler is in the audience. He'll probably speak later. The Hefner family owns the property. This is West Smithfield, so Duke has electric power, but the water and sewer would be town of Smithfield. So right now, the property is vacant and covered with woods. There's deep drainage ditches running east to west near Hartley Drive right-of-way. There are no wetlands or floodplains on the property. There is an existing 20-foot sanitary sewer easement highlighted in yellow, running north-south on the west edge of the development site. Just want to make point this out, there are some landlocked parcels in the neighborhood, right around that property. I don't believe it makes sense that this development would provide access. There's no public street being proposed through this development. It's just a private HOA amenity parking lot providing the access to the lots. Number 1 and 2, seemingly some of the same ownership. They could get access from Computer Drive through the lots that those owners currently own. Lot number 3 is owned by Mr. Meacham from the funeral home. He owns that and all the parcels to the east to Wilson's Mills Road. So technically, there's access on Wilson's Mills Road for all the properties he owns. It doesn't make a great access because it's so close to Durwood Stevenson, but technically, he's not landlocked if you combine all of his properties. There is some potential opportunity to gain access where Shady Lane turns and runs north-south. They're really close to the right-of-way there, and something probably could be negotiated for a second entrance if that were to develop in the future. But I did want to point out that there are some some properties that have difficult access, probably created because Durwood Stevenson came through and cut off all other access. So as I said, multifamily is a special use permit requirement in the UDO. They need to comply with Article 7, Section 7.35, which are the supplementary standards for multifamily. This project meets the density requirements of the comp plan. It has street frontage, as I mentioned. This is the proposed development, so it'll have 2 entrances off of Hartley Drive, 3 rows of townhouses fronted on a private parking lot, and a mailbox, kiosk, and amenity area at the end of the development. So they have, the way this is laid out, they meet all the relevant codes in the UDO. So they have a type A buffer along the sides and rear of the site, except for a type C screening fence will be provided along the adjacent property with the industrial. And they'll have a standard street yard along Hartley Drive, which is a requirement. With multifamily developments greater than 31 units, they're required to have a setback of 40 feet on the perimeter of the site, and they have complied with that. They're also required to have a building separation of 30 feet between buildings based on the heights of the building, and they've complied with that requirement. The existing Hartley Drive is a standard DOT design. It's about 20 feet wide with ditches on both sides for drainage. The extension of Hartley Drive will be 27-foot back-to-back, meeting town's local street standards. So there will be a change as you go through that intersection. It'll become a more modern street. The end of the road will function as a hammerhead for large vehicles to turn around. And this has been reviewed by the fire marshal, and he didn't have any issues with how it ends. Because this is a driveway, not a street, they'll have to provide a standard driveway detail entrance into the development. And they will be required to construct sidewalks along Hartley Drive. The individual townhomes will have 2-foot modulation to break up the mass and bulk of the units. So the facades will do this by 2 feet with the units. That'll break up the mass and the bulk. There will be small entrance porches on all the units. Corner lots will have ground floor and upper floor windows. Sorry about that. Each unit will have a patio and storage area. The building materials will be vinyl, brick, and stone, but they've not been identified. Unit width will be 17.5, so these are about as narrow as any townhouses we have in the town. The same as East River 6 and 7. If you've been out there, they're recently constructed, so it'll be the same width. Building height, again, is 30 feet. There'll be 6 to 8 units each building. Each unit will have 36.75 square feet of storage, which is more than required in Article 7.35. Each townhouse will have multiple building materials and colors. Each unit will have a roll-out trash container to be stored in the rear of the building and pulled to the adjacent medians for trash pickup day. So they'll be pulled up to those medians, and there's medians like every 15 parking stalls, there's another median, so they'll be stored there during trash day. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be a 5,000 square feet of recreation area at the north end of the development with a parking and mail kiosk, which meets the recreational requirements in Section 7.35 of the supplementary standards. The developer has not indicated whether there will actually be a play apparatus, a tot lot park or not. We don't know. It's not required. The development will have an impervious footprint of 42.8%, which requires a storm pond, and they've provided that. So they're meeting stormwater requirements. There will be an HOA to maintain all the common amenities. The developer is proposing to run public water and sanitary sewer into the site for taps to individual units. A 30-foot wide easement will need to be provided over that line. No development signs have been identified at this time. They will, if they do propose them, they will need to, well, they do need to provide them. They'll need to be provided in the open space near the entrance. A traffic study will be required with the plat because this project will generate more than 800 trips per day, which is the trigger is 800 in our code. So at that point, I anticipate some kind of study to see how impacted the intersections will be right at Hartley. And, you know, the question will be, should additional street be provided, completing that block past the townhouses and then to the south? So that, I believe that study would decide, you know, to what degree streets should be built. So with a special use permit, there are a number of finding of facts that need to be met. Staff finds all of them to be met, and only if it can be found that a particular finding can't be met, can this project be denied. It would take a 4/5 vote of the board to agree on that. I can go through each of the findings, or what's the council's pleasure?
Could you, just so the have better view, because I looked at it on the map, can you actually go to Google Map and bring up so we can see satellite view, what we're talking about, so we can look at that roads? Now, is Coates Road a gravel road or paved road? You said you used it as a driveway. Is it a gravel road or a paved road?
It's paved until you get to the Hartley intersection, then it's someone's driveway. It's not built to the north of that. And Hartley's not built to the west of Coates.
Yeah, so, I think if you bring up Google Map for that, I think we can give everybody a view.
Am I on the internet?
He keeps saying driveway. Is there a house back here somewhere?
That's what I'm bringing up, I can't.
This is
I might need Brian's help. I don't know how to get the internet on this thing.
This is the very first one.
Think so?
I think so.
GIS is probably the one that won't make it.
I was going to do Google Earth. We connected?
But he'll have access, should be. This right here becomes to be a public street, right? Yeah. Does his house face that way? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. So this
Yeah, we can pull up GIS and show what you think.
Because it looks like a lot here. So, this lot here must face Adams. Maybe he gets. These things here always give me like. Things always get me.
Have not been identified. It's not to look it up because it's an administrator thing.
Wouldn't GIS do it, Steve?
Oh, no, it's not.
What are you looking for? I might be able to just go run copies of.
No, I want to be able to, so you can zoom in on it, so I wanted him to do it, so you can zoom in on it.
I'm more up to date.
We're good.
All right.
But we can't do it, we can't do it, it's not going to be, that's not the nail stopper there.
Yes. Just go back over here. Okay. See if it goes. Click there.
Here?
Yeah, try that one more time. It's going to take an administrator to update that, so I don't think that we'll be able to get in that right now. Can you put in your password?
GIS.
He can't get it. Stephen, if you can't get the Google map, could you go to the GIS portal?
I got the same problem. I can't get into
Oh.
Google without this fix.
Okay.
Internet problems. So we're doing PowerPoint slides.
Mayor Pro Tem, while they work on that, I have a question we could probably talk about. Of course, this project is, it's elaborate in regards to what it's going to do to this area, make it better. My question with you mentioned that I think you called it a median for the garbage cans. So is that the vacant spaces between the setbacks, the 30-foot setback?
It's the landscape islands between parking stalls.
Right.
So the ends of them will be designed to,
Like a loading zone, kind of?
yeah, it'll be designed with some pavement to accept the trash cans on garbage day. Just, it's being thought out ahead of time, so you don't just have cans strewn all about.
Right.
So the people have to bring their cans out to that location. And that's a response to a conversation with Mr. Emler about how he's going to handle trash, because that's always an issue in these types of developments. And so that's what he's come up with.
Well, and what about and I don't know if you may have mentioned the kiosk or a mail, would that be similar?
The mail kiosk is over by the open space at the north end of the development.
So
They
it's
provided,
one item? Okay.
yeah, they provided parking stalls and a recreation area in that same area.
You're good.
Thank you.
Kinda. Double satellite view now.
God, can't spell. Stephen, do we know where they're going to store these trash receptacles when they're not being taken out?
Behind the homes.
I did have one question about the trash again. I know there are some townhomes in town where the end units have put up fences, and in some cases that blocks the units in the middle from taking their trash cans back behind. They just have to leave them out front all the time. Is the homeowners association going to have any restriction on fencing?
The individual units will have their own lots sitting within common open space. So they can always exit out the back into the common open space and bring their trash cans around.
Okay, so the person in the end unit can't put a fence up
Correct.
on theirs
To totally block
to
it.
prevent the people on the inside from getting around?
That's Coates.
So here's the intersection, folks. Straight ahead, this is Coates, heading north towards Durwood Stevenson. You can see that Coates turns into a residential driveway. There's about 30, 40 feet of public right-of-way, and that driveway sits right in the middle of it. It's been treated as a driveway, residential driveway for years. I don't know the history of it, but that is the current condition of the Coates right-of-way north of Hartley Drive.
But technically, that is a road.
It's right-of-way. There's no road.
Okay, so
The
there is
road's-
no, so Coates ends there, there's no Coates beyond it?
Right.
Okay,
Yep, just want to make clear.
okay.
And Hartley Drive is kind of the same, except for it degenerates into kind of a gravel trail, but the pavement ends about there.
There's a huge ditch. that runs
There's a
out the
huge
side.
ditch, yeah.
Huge ditch with tree limbs all growing in it.
Right.
So we've been out there, Lawrence, that's where we've been, that's where the neighbors, but it's on the other side of the road, been complaining about that road. So if it gets fixed, they'll love it, okay, because I'm just saying. Okay.
So the one comment I have,
There's also, though, one thing, if you go back to where you're at, I don't know how far you can go down that road. Go back to Hartley.
yep,
At the end of Hartley, because it really grew up really bad not long ago. And go back down Hartley, down the other way.
this way?
Yep, go down that way. I don't know how far down you can go.
Yeah, it doesn't go.
Yep, okay. Well, there's a huge ditch down there because all the water out of Landmark Apartments flow down that way. So it's pretty heavy flow of water through there. So stormwater is a factor for that one. I don't know how much it's going to be when you add the apartments over here on this side, but I think they're flowing that way, not this way. So, because it looks like the water all flows away from this part. I mean, that's the impression I've got based on what, we can see.
Right.
And based on what the neighbors there said does. So the water's running away from it, so it's not going to run back into the west of maybe it's going, and I think that's what you got a retaining pond on that side, so the water run towards that way.
That's
Looks
right.
at it that way. But there is a, you mentioned there's a, some type of a utility or, what is that thing over there?
There's a utility easement that runs next to where they're proposing the storm
There's a
pond.
there's a road that goes over top of it.
Yep.
Access to that is pretty big.
Oh, I will get to that part of the map here.
That's not being, is that going to be made into a road also?
Hold on.
It's at the end of Hartley Drive, there's an access, a huge, because it was a big cul-de-sac somebody had to clean out because the water's flowing over top of the, and washed out the whole.
I guess it's called Hartley Drive here. This north part of Hartley Drive, right here, that is also undeveloped right-of-way. And that is I don't know if it continues, I don't think it really continues north. I mean, there's an easement that continues north, but this is basically a gravel drive like the other part of Hartley Drive, but it's never really been built. And that's why I'm saying the traffic study could come back saying we're impacting the Hartley Drive Coates intersection so badly that we should disperse traffic. And then possibly have to
Okay.
build out the rest of Hartley Drive or something. So that is something that I definitely want to have looked at, and have our town engineer look at that as well. But
I believe that's incorrect. Ain't that what they have here? Adams.
Yeah,
it's Adams.
but the other road, so Hartley's the one where you got the dot out there. Hartley's the one that runs parallel to it that way.
Yeah.
It runs to there.
Hartley runs parallel
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Powell, and that's where we're talking about development behind there.
That's right, right where the corner's at is where it ends. But you're looking at going up above in the green area.
Exactly.
That's where they're building at, because that's the wooded area. Yeah, see, all the woods up in there anyway. So it ends right there, and that, yep. Right there where the little corner thing's at, there's a big, some type of easement that people
Yeah.
go in there for utility people going to do work. So I don't know what they're going in there to do work with, but but they do. But that was because Lawrence had to go there and clean up a bunch of junk in there about a year ago. Was it a year ago? Maybe not even that long ago, but
And they're respecting that easement in their design, so.
so Hartley Drive is a road.
Hartley Drive is a right-of-way in front of this property, so there's no road. They're going to extend the road part of the way down Hartley Drive, and the question I have is, should it all be built? Should Adams and Hartley Drive be built, creating the grid? And I think the TIA is something that we'll have to pay attention to.
Now Adams is a paved road.
No, maybe for 20, 30 feet, but that's
Yeah.
it.
Part of it is when he comes in past that first house.
I
They
think
probably
so.
had to pave when they built the other house, that R10 house there.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, though. So my last question is, do you want me to go through individual finding of fact? Okay.
I don't think so. They met all of them.
So staff is recommending 3 conditions of approval. One, that the parking lot entrances be constructed in accordance with the town's driveway detail, that a traffic impact study be conducted prior to the preliminary plat, and a 30-foot wide public easement be provided over the proposed water and sewer lines. And then staff is recommending approval based on the finding of fact.
Any more questions for Mr. Windsor? The applicant, I assume, is here tonight. Do you have any information, additional information you'd like to provide?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, thank you for the opportunity to be in here tonight.
One second, Mr. Emmer, do you?
Oh, excuse me.
That's fine, that's okay. Do you agree with the testimony offered by Mr. Winsman tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Paul Embler, 11 Kenwood Drive, Smithfield, North Carolina, representing Terra Eden Landscape and Design. I stand open to, Steve did a real good job of summarizing everything. I would like to emphasize again, this is a special use permit request. All the conditions of the town's ordinance for multifamily associated with townhomes have been met. And just a couple of discussions about Hartley Drive. I did a little additional research, and all the property that fronts on Hartley Drive opposite the project are actually owned by people that live on Powell Street. They bought the land behind them, and those accessory buildings back there are associated with the homes on Powell Street. That's not evident from the tax map information. But any other questions that you might have, I'm happy to hear, answer them for you. And the surveyor and the engineer is here, and he can address stormwater and the utility needs that you might have questions about.
Mr. Embler, thank you for coming tonight. Can you pull the slide up of the rendering of what, my concern is, and I think you're already all on top of it, and this is really probably not relevant to this exact approval of the special use, but with the consideration of the trash and the number of units, would it be unreasonable if perhaps y'all considered having like a kiosk, a dumpster kiosk, instead of having a bunch of cans? I mean, I don't know if that's something you guys even thought about, but the reason I asked that is because, you know, in 15 years, this can be built out, but if that heavy trash truck has to make that loop every day, it's going to wear havoc on the parking lot. It seems like it'd be more maintenance. I just was curious what y'all's thoughts were on that.
Well, it would be as any parking lot where there's a trash dumpster that's associated with it. It would have to be, the travel path would have to be a heavier weight pavement than where the parking is. And so it would be designed to handle the truck traffic. And even if you had a trash corral with dumpsters, you wouldn't want it right up there at the very front. You would want it to put back. But with one reason why we went with this with a linear piece of property like it is, if you had to take your trash all the way down to the end of the street to access the dumpster, you're not going to walk. You're going to take the vehicle and throw it in your trunk, and you're going to take it down there. They'll actually have better trash pickup if they have it individually picked up at a common location. So what we provided for, Steve, do you
I got
have
it,
that?
yeah.
What this is, Councilman Scott, you did ask about, is this between the units? And the answer is yes. And basically, this is 30 feet wide or 40 feet wide, which is the required distance between the units. So what you're seeing here is something that is about 4 times the size of a regular traffic island, because a regular traffic island only has to be 9 feet back to back. So what it is, these right here are symbol for 8 trash cans in this size. They can roll it out, they come out here, they come around the back of the unit and come in, and then they can take their trash things, and these will be numbered out here per the unit. And so what it is, the unit on this side and the unit on this side, they can bring it into the middle and put it there. And the maximum number of units that we have in a building is 8. And there's a reason for that, because after you go past 8 units, you have to build to the commercial building code and not the residential building code. So you don't have to walk real far to get to one of these trash bins. They're not bins, there's just a sidewalk with a number on it.
I got you.
And it's got a rolled curb on it, so there won't be any trying to pull it up over the curb. You can just slide it up, park it, and then at the end of the day, you come back and get it.
And Councilman Dunn made the statement about the fence. Can you go back to the render? So would each of the apartment or homes have a green space, but they wouldn't be allowed to put a fence that could block the access for all others' trash? Does that make sense?
My personal recommendation to, when we get to that stage, would be not to have fences in a townhome development, because it presents problems, just as you have mentioned. But now I will emphasize that to the rear of the units,
They wouldn't get the trash cans.
and this is the rear, that's the storage building that has about 35 square feet in it. But also behind that, there is a 3-foot bay that's a screen fence that will be the height of a trash can, and you roll it around, it'll be a 2-sided fence, and the back of the storage building will be the 3rd side, and there'll be an open side, so you just put your trash can back in there, and that's where it's stored when it's not out at the street, or actually trash cans.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So again, just to be clear, because the end units, they won't be able to put an extra fence up. That'll be in the homeowners that they can't.
Everything in this development outside even the outside skin of the building will be proposed to be in the HOA.
Okay.
I mean, for long-term maintenance and operation, you want the appearance of the units to be maintained. The only way I know to do it and effectively do it is in an HOA. Now, it can be, you can have, I've done developments in the past where the whole development is in an HOA, but then the individual units, and my son owned one, Brett owned one up in Apex, that one block of buildings with 8 units in it, it had an HOA for that building and then one for the overall. And that's how they maintained theirs. So they didn't have to do each building at the same time ever so many years.
Same thing with grass cutting. If that fence was there, it'd be impossible.
Yep. And let me say too, where this facility is going to be at, it's not necessarily on the beaten path. All I mean is, you got to go back there to see it, because it will be, because you're going to have Dover Stevens Parkway, you can't do anything about that, right? There it is. So it's Dover Stevens Parkway, so it's going to be it's back there in West Smithfield, okay? I mean, it is. So it's not going to be one of these things that you pass by on Wilson Mills Road. Every day, yeah. You got to go back to people that should be, all people should go back there, people that live back there, quite honest with you, or was invited to go back there. That's my opinion. I don't know why that would not be a high-trafficked area, my point being.
Well, I don't think it will be high traffic, and most of it will be heading toward Wake County, and going in the morning and then coming back in the evening. And if you track off from the traffic light at Rose Manor, you're coming into a commercial and industrial area. You're coming up to Powell Drive. You're going to turn on Powell Drive. You go basically 2 blocks and turn back to the left. So there's very little. There's only probably about 8 or 10 homes that would be actually impacted by any traffic in the residential part of it. Most of it would be in the commercial and in the industrial part. And there will be no access from anywhere along Durwood Stevenson, because that's a controlled access all the way from US 70 to Wilson Mills Road.
So the other question for you, so it is y'all's intent, though, to pave that road, Hartley Drive?
At least to the exit,
Right.
The second entrance into the park, yes. And it would be curbed and guttered. And if you have questions of the storm drainage, the ditching that you referred to
Right.
earlier will be piped.
Yeah.
And it will be carried down to the stream.
which I think is gonna be, I think, I don't know how no one's here for the neighbors that live right beside it, because I know that, I talked to the guy who owns all that land, right? Because again, like you said, they just bought the land there, because they're right beside, they live on part, they own of it. And, I know for sure, they'll be thrilled if somebody does something with that area back there, because they're complaining about it all the time, because it's, it's just wooded land, and so trees fall, water flows by there, everything falls down that way. Everything, if anything's going to flow, that heavy rain carries it down there. So then they're always having to come to clean it up, because there's nobody else down there to do it, except get Lawrence to come out there and clean it up. But, okay, that's great. That's great news. It'll help a lot in that improvement of that area down there too.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Emerald. All right.
You want to ask if anybody else?
Yeah.
Close.
Does anybody else in the audience like to speak on this at this time? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is closed.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve special use permit 24-01 for Hartley Drive Townhomes, a 94-unit townhome, developed on 9.61 acres of land in the R8 zoning district with three conditionals, findings of fact for special use permits.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Carries. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. All right, at this time, if there's any citizens in the audience who would like to come and have citizen comments, you may come up now. If you do, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. All right. Seeing none at this time, we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda, including the items that we added.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item will be council member comments. I think Councilman Scott wanted to add that.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, very brief.
Sir.
I just wanted the opportunity to reach out and say thank you to the Smithfield Police Department, specifically Julie, for their National Night Out event that they put on. I know the town worked close with them. Many other people were involved in that, but it was a very well-organized event, and considering their rain date had to be changed, just wanted to tell them thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right. That will conclude our agenda. Mr. Manager, do you have anything to add tonight?
Very quickly, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we want to announce that our River Rat Regatta is going to be canceled this year. The water levels are just too high and too swift to run this year. We have several events scheduled after that, so it's not feasible to postpone it and reschedule it. So there will be no River Rat Regatta cardboard boat race on Saturday as previously scheduled. Also, we do have a DSDC, a Downtown Smithfield Development Corporation event scheduled for Friday evening. We will have music, vendors, some food downtown on 3rd Street between Johnston and Market. So should be a nice night. Anyone looking for something to do, I'd encourage them to come down. That's it.
All right, well, that will conclude our agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.